When you were a child, you were told a story. Actually, it wasn't a story. Not the usual kind, anyway. The kind that opens with mountains and ends with lotuses. He took out a bowl, but not the kind you'd use for drinking or eating. This bowl would be poor for that, for there was a hole at the bottom. Water or food would just spill out. And yet, he held up the bowl and, taking a very large gourd in his other hand, began to pour water into it. "Uncle," you asked, "why are you pouring water into a bowl with a hole?" He only smiled and replied, "Let me tell the story." Then he fell silent. "Well," you asked, "what's the story?" "This is the world." You stared at him in confusion. "What do you mean? That's a bowl." Your young mind was just barely beginning to tie the concept of metaphors. He smiled and explained how the bowl merely represented the shape, only much smaller, easier to see, easier to understand. The walls of the bowl were the mountains of the world. You were here, at the base of the mountains on this side of the bowl. Look in the center of the bowl. What do you see? He lowered the bowl so you could peer inside. There's water inside," you replied. "Yes. All the sky water, it must go somewhere, yes? When it falls, it gathers at the bottom, the center. This is how we know the world is a bowl." He poured the gourd out onto the floor. The water spread out and dripped over the edge. See? If the world were flat, the water would not stay in one place. The water stays because the world is a bowl. That is why there's always water on the ground. "But," you began, "what about the hole?" Another smile. He took up the bowl with his hand again, this time holding it from below, so his palm covered the hole. "Watch what happens when there is no hole." He began to pour water into the bowl again. A little leaked out around his hand, you noticed, but you also noticed how the water began to fill up in the bowl very quickly. It rose up beyond the place the uncle had pointed to indicate your location in the world bowl, reaching halfway up the bowl until the gourd was empty and the uncle had to stop. "Tell me, what is the answer?" You looked up at him, wide-eyed. "There will be water everywhere," you cried. You felt very smart as the uncle nodded in agreement. "Exactly. The hole is there, so the bowl does not fill up." "But who put the bowl there?" He shrugged. "Who knows?" He set down the bowl and pointed at a patch of paint on the interior of the bowl. Paint the color of the sky. "See this paint?" he asked. You nodded. "This is the mountains of the south. You are yet young. You have yet to see the swamp without trees." "Without trees?" you echoed incredulously. "You'll see. It is almost time. But that is a story for another time. But when that time comes, remember to turn your head south. The others will do it too. The children, even some of the younger adults. Turn your head south and peer into the distance. What you see then, that is a place where the sky and the earth meet, and water stands still." "What?" you asked. "What does that mean?" He shrugged again. "I don't know. That's just what the uncles told me. What their uncles told them. Maybe it's just a phrase. Or maybe," he said, poking your nose with the tip of his finger, "maybe you will be the one to find out." He lifted you in his strong arms and ruffled your hair. "My little swallow."